The night was heavy with smoke and broken silence. The ruined city lay in darkness, its tall towers half burned, its streets cracked and empty. Wind carried dust and the smell of fire. Somewhere far away, a machine howled, sharp and metallic, like a monster calling to its pack. Through the shadows ran a girl. Her skin carried a faint silver glow, not human, but not completely alien either. Her breathing was sharp, every step heavy. Her clothes were torn, her hair full of ash. One hand pressed against her side where blood leaked slowly. In the other hand, she held something bright, a crystal that pulsed with a weak blue light. She stumbled between fallen walls and broken vehicles. Her legs shook, but she could not stop. She whispered to herself, voice trembling, "Keep running. Don't let them catch you." Behind her, the sound of metal feet grew louder. The hunters were close. The girl pressed herself against a wall and tried to listen. Her heart pounded so loud it almost covered the sound of the machines. She knew if they caught her, it would be the end. She had seen what they did to others. She had seen the fire and the cages. She would rather die here than be taken alive. A flicker of light caught her eyes. Ahead, between two broken buildings, she saw a small metal door. Rusted, half buried, almost invisible in the dark. She crawled closer, body weak, hands shaking. On the door, the old Earth language was written. Letters she could not read, but she remembered the symbol, a circle with a cross. It was a human sign. She pulled at the handle. It opened with a scream of rust. The girl slipped inside, closing the door softly behind her. For a moment she leaned her forehead against the cold metal, eyes closed, trying not to cry. She had found a place to hide, but she was not alone. A voice came from the dark, low, rough, human. "Who are you?" The girl froze. Her breath caught. She turned her head slowly. In the shadows of the shelter, a figure moved. A man. His face was tired, with lines of hunger and days without sleep. His eyes were sharp, full of suspicion. In his hands he carried a metal pipe, ready to strike if needed. The alien girl stepped back, pressing the crystal against her chest. "Don't hurt me," she whispered. Her voice shook, her words broken but clear. I just need a place. Please." The man's eyes narrowed. For a long moment, silence filled the shelter, heavy and dangerous. He looked at her glowing skin, her strange eyes, the wound on her side. "You're not one of them," he finally said. His voice was softer, now but still guarded. "But you're not human either," the girl shook her head. "No, not like you, but I'm hunted too." She lifted the crystal slightly. "They want this." The man glanced at the light. Something deep in his memory stirred. He had heard stories about crystals like that, weapons or keys, things the enemy feared and wanted. But now was not the time for questions. Outside, a metallic scream tore through the night. The ground vibrated as heavy steps drew closer. The girl's eyes widened in terror. She looked at the man. "They found me. The two." Man's jaw tightened. He stepped closer, lowering his pipe. "Stay quiet," he ordered. He moved to the corner of the shelter and listened carefully. Through the cracks in the broken walls, shadows of machines passed. Red eyes glowed in the night, scanning the streets. Their metal voices hissed commands to each other. The girl tried to hold her breath. The crystal in her hand glowed brighter, as if sensing the danger. She prayed the hunters would not see the light. She pressed it harder against her chest, hiding it under her torn clothes. One of the machines stopped. Its red eye turned slowly toward the shelter door. For a second, the girl thought her heart had stopped too. The man looked at her, eyes sharp. He raised a finger to his lips. Silence. But the hunters were not fools. They had traced her steps. They had smelled her blood. A loud, heavy crash shook the shelter. The door bent under the weight of claws and metal fists. The girl gasped. The man grabbed her wrist and pulled her deeper into the shadows. "They're coming in," he whispered. "Stay behind me." The crystal in her hand pulsed again, faster this time, as if it knew the danger. The girl's eyes filled with tears, but also with a spark of something else, hope or maybe fear of losing hope. The shelter groaned as the hunters forced their way inside. The sound of tearing metal filled the air. Sparks danced in the darkness. The man gripped his pipe tighter. The girl pressed against the wall, trembling. And then, the door broke open with a scream of steel. A tall hunter stepped inside, its red, eyes burning like fire in the dark. The alien girl clutched her crystal. The human raised his weapon. The first fight was about to begin. The hunter's red eyes scanned the shelter, its head turning slowly like a wolf sniffing for prey. Metal claws scraped against the floor, leaving deep marks on the ground. Its body was tall, covered with black armor, and a long spear of light extended from its arm. The alien girl pressed against the wall, clutching the glowing crystal so tightly her knuckles turned pale. Her heart beat so fast she thought the machine could hear it. The man moved in front of her, standing tall even though his body looked thin and weak from hunger. For a moment, silence filled the air. Only the hum of the hunter's machine core echoed in the shelter. Then the man acted. With a sudden swing, he slammed the metal pipe against the broken ceiling. Dust and rubble rained down, clouding the air. The hunter's sensors flickered in the storm of dust. It hissed, trying to lock on target. "Run!" the man shouted. The girl hesitated, but his voice carried a command she could not resist. She darted toward the deeper shadows of the shelter, her feet stumbling on the cracked floor. The man stayed behind for 1 second longer, then struck the machine's leg. Sparks flew, but the hunter did not fall. It roared with a metallic scream, the sound echoing across the broken chamber. The man pulled back and dashed after the girl. Together they slipped into a narrow passage hidden behind old crates. The hunter slashed at the wall, but the entrance was too small for its massive frame. Still, it did not give up. Its red eyes glowed brighter, and it began to force its way, inside, tearing metal apart like paper. The girl and the man moved quickly through the tight passage. It smelled of rust, oil, and old war memories. Their footsteps echoed in the narrow darkness. Finally, they reached a small chamber lit by a weak lamp. The man shut the passage with a metal sheet and pressed his back against it. His breathing was heavy, sweat running down his face. The girl stood across from him, shaking, her crystal glowing faintly in her hands. For the first time since they met, there was a pause. A fragile moment of safety. The man looked at her more closely now. Her eyes were bright, almost too bright, like stars trapped inside them. Her silver glow made her look fragile, but there was something strong in the way she held that crystal. "You almost got me killed," he muttered, wiping his forehead. The girl lowered her head. "I'm sorry. I had nowhere else to go." The man sighed. His voice softened just a little. "You're lucky I didn't throw you back out there." Silence, again. The only sound was the faint hum of the lamp above them. The girl finally asked, Why did you help me? I am not human." The man looked at her, his eyes cold at first, then thoughtful. "Because you were hunted, and I know what that feels like." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken pain. The girl wanted to ask more, but she bit her tongue. Instead, she slowly lifted the crystal. "They want this," she said softly. "This is why they follow me." The man's eyes narrowed. He leaned closer, studying the crystal. The blue light reflected on his face, making him look both tired and fierce. "What is it?" "A key," she whispered, "to something they fear. Something human." The man frowned. He didn't understand, but he could see in her trembling hands that she spoke the truth. Outside, the sound of the hunter grew faint. Maybe it had left, or maybe it was waiting. The man turned away, searching through a box of supplies in the chamber. He pulled out a small piece of bread and handed it to her. "Eat. You look like you'll fall any second." The girl blinked. She hadn't expected kindness. Slowly, carefully, she took the bread and bit into it. It was dry and hard, but to her it tasted like life. She looked at the man again. "What is your name?" He paused for a moment, as if the question surprised him. "Daniel," he said finally. His voice carried a shadow as if the name reminded him of things he wanted to forget. The girl whispered back, "My name is Kayla." Daniel gave a small nod. No smile, no warmth, but a recognition. They were strangers, but for now they were tied together by danger. Then, a sudden noise cut through their fragile peace. A metallic thump echoed above them. The roof of the shelter shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Kayla's eyes widened in fear. "They're still here." Daniel grabbed his pipe again, standing tall even though his body shook with exhaustion. "Of course they are. They never leave once they find prey." Kayla held her crystal close. Its glow grew stronger as if it felt the hunters near. Daniel looked at her, his jaw tight. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "If you stay here, you'll die. If I stay here, I'll die. But there's a way out. Old tunnels. Humans built them long ago." Kayla's voice trembled. "Tunnels? Where do they go?" "Deeper," Daniel replied. His eyes hardened. "To places the hunters don't know. To places even they fear." Kayla felt her chest tighten. Fear and hope mixed inside her like fire and ice. The sound above grew louder. Metal feet. Heavy. Searching. Daniel looked at Kayla once more. His voice was steady, even though the world shook around them. "You asked why I helped you," he said. "Here's the truth. Because maybe you're the reason I'm still alive. Maybe you're the reason humans still have a chance." Kayla stared at him, not knowing what to say. Her hands tightened on the crystal. The roof cracked, and a red eye shone through the hole. Daniel grabbed her hand. Time to move. And together they ran into the tunnels of the forgotten world. The tunnels were narrow and damp, smelling of rust and old fire. Daniel led the way, holding a small lantern made from scraps. Its weak flame barely touched the stone walls. Kayla followed close behind, clutching her glowing crystal, the blue light mixing with the yellow of the lantern. Her steps echoed in the silence. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow felt like a hand reaching out to catch her. Daniel glanced back at her once, his eyes hard but focused. "Keep moving. Don't look back." But Kayla could not help it. Behind them, from the broken shelter, came the sound of metal. The hunters had entered. Their claws tore through the walls, their voices whispering in cold, broken speech. "They are coming," Kayla whispered. Daniel gave no answer. His jaw tightened. He kept walking faster, pulling her with him whenever she slowed. The tunnel twisted and turned like a maze. Pipes ran along the walls, dripping water. Old human markings, faded with time, lined the stone. Kayla could not read them, but Daniel touched one with his hand. His face was filled with memories. "These tunnels kept my people alive once," he muttered. "Maybe they will again." But the hunters were clever. The echoes of their metal. Steps grew closer. Red lights flickered in the distance, reflections bouncing off the wet walls. Suddenly, a sharp hiss filled the tunnel. A hunter had crawled into the narrow passage. Its body scraped against stone, sparks flying as it forced itself through. Kayla gasped. "It's here." Daniel shoved her behind him. He raised his metal pipe, standing in the center of the tunnel. His chest rose and fell, but his grip did not shake. The hunter lunged. Its arm blade sliced through the air. Daniel dodged, the blade cutting a pipe instead. Steam exploded, filling the tunnel with burning mist. Daniel struck hard, slamming his pipe against the hunter's head. The sound rang like a bell. The machine staggered, but only for a second. Its red eye turned bright again, full of rage. Kayla screamed, holding the crystal tighter. The glow spread through her arms, lighting the tunnel. For a moment, the hunter froze, as if the light hurt it. "Do it again," Daniel shouted, swinging his pipe into the machine's chest. Sparks burst, but the hunter still fought back. Kayla held the crystal high. Her voice shook, but she shouted a word in her alien tongue. The blue glow flashed brighter. a wave of light rushing down the tunnel. The hunter screeched. Its sensors flickered. It slammed against the wall, stunned for a heartbeat. Daniel did not waste that chance. He struck again and again until the hunter's eye went dark and its body fell heavy to the floor. The tunnel shook with the weight of metal hitting stone. Kayla's chest rose and fell in panic. She stared at the fallen machine, then at Daniel. His arms bled where the blade had grazed him, but he stood strong. "You killed it," she whispered, half in awe, half in fear. Daniel spat on the ground. "It's not the first, won't be the last." But the victory was short. From deeper in the tunnels came another sound. Many sounds. Claws. Feet. The hunters were not alone. Daniel's face hardened. He grabbed Kayla's arm. "Move. Now." They ran. The tunnels shook with the echoes of machines chasing them. Kayla's lungs burned. Her wound stung with every step. Still, she forced herself to keep up. She had no choice. Daniel's grip was strong, pulling her forward, keeping her alive. At T. Last, they reached a larger chamber. It was round, with broken machines lying silent against the walls. Old lights hung from the ceiling, cracked and useless. In the center, a giant steel door stood half buried in rubble. Daniel stopped. He looked at the door with wide eyes. "I thought this place was lost." Kayla looked at the strange symbols carved into the steel. Her crystal glowed brighter, pulsing, like a heartbeat. She stepped closer without thinking, as if the door called to her. "Kayla, wait," Daniel warned. But before she could touch it, the hunters arrived. Dozens of red lights filled the tunnel behind them. The sound of claws was deafening. Kayla froze in terror. "There are too many." Daniel stood in front of her again, pipe raised, blood running down his arm. His face was pale, but his eyes burned with fire. "Then we fight, or we die trying." The hunters stepped forward, their red eyes glowing in the dark chamber. Kayla's hands shook, but the crystal pulsed stronger than ever. She felt warmth spread through her chest, a strange energy awakening inside her. She looked at Daniel. His stance was unbroken, a single human standing against an army. Something inside her shifted. For the first time, she believed he could do it, but the chamber itself seemed to respond. The steel door trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The symbols on the door glowed faintly, answering the crystal's light. Kayla's eyes widened. "The door, it knows me." Daniel glanced at her, his voice sharp. "Then open it. Whatever it is, it's our only chance." The hunters hissed, ready to strike. Kayla raised the crystal. Its blue glow spread across the chamber, bright enough to blind the machines. The steel door groaned, ancient locks clicking open after years of silence. The hunters screeched, rushing forward. Daniel swung his pipe, knocking one back. Kayla pressed the crystal into the symbols, shouting in her alien tongue. The door cracked, open with a roar. A wave of cold air rushed out. "Inside!" Daniel shouted. He shoved Kayla through first, then followed, slamming his shoulder against the heavy door. The hunters clawed at the opening, but the door sealed shut just in time. The chamber shook with their rage, but they could not get through. Silence fell. Daniel dropped to the floor, breathing hard. Kayla fell beside him, clutching the crystal. The hidden chamber stretched before them, filled with strange machines and old human symbols. The air was thick with forgotten power. Kayla whispered, her voice trembling. What is this place?" Daniel looked around, his eyes wide with awe and fear. "The last refuge," he said. But outside, the hunters did not stop. Their claws scratched against the steel, their voices promising they would return. The fight was far from over. The heavy steel door closed behind them with a slow, echoing thud. For the first time since the chase began, silence filled the air. No red lights, no claws scratching on stone. Just the faint hum of something ancient and hidden, deep in the walls around them. Kayla leaned against the cold steel, her body trembling. Her wound ached, her lungs burned, but she was alive. The crystal in her hand pulsed softly, no longer, wild and bright but calm, like a heartbeat at rest. Daniel sat on the floor nearby, wiping blood from his arm where the hunter's blade had grazed him. His face was pale, his breathing rough, but his eyes were still sharp. Always sharp. For a moment, neither spoke. They just breathed, letting the silence wrap around them. Finally, Kayla broke it. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "What is this place?" Daniel looked around slowly. The chamber was vast, larger than any tunnel Kayla had seen before. The walls were lined with old machines, human machines, rusted, silent, but still humming faintly, as if waiting for something. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, the same symbols that had shown when Kayla pressed the crystal against the door. Daniel's voice carried a mix of awe and sadness. This was one of our shelters. A real one. Not like the broken ones. Above, this was where my people prepared for the end. Kayla touched the wall gently. The glowing lines stretched like veins of light, connecting machines together. Her eyes widened. It responds to the crystal. Daniel's gaze followed her hand. He frowned. Why? You're not human. Why does it listen to you? Kayla hesitated. Her silver eyes flickered with guilt. Because my people helped build it, long ago, before the war. Daniel's jaw tightened. Your people worked with us? Kayla nodded slowly. Yes. But when the hunters came, many turned away. They feared your strength. They feared what you could become. That is why the hunters wanted humans gone. Her words hung in the chamber like a ghost. Daniel stared at her, anger and confusion mixing in his eyes. Then why are you here? He asked sharply. Why bring that thing to me? Kayla held up the crystal, its glow reflecting in her trembling hands. Because it's the only thing left. It's a key. A key to something your people hid. I stole it from the ones who betrayed us. They will chase me until I die. But if I can bring it here, maybe there is still hope. Daniel's chest rose and fell. His eyes softened slightly, but his voice remained hard. Hope? You think humans still have hope? Look around, girl. The city above is ash. My people are bones in the dirt. Kayla's throat tightened. She stepped closer, her voice firm despite her shaking body. And yet you are alive. You fought the hunter when no one else would. You stand even when the world is broken. If there is no hope, then why do you keep fighting? Daniel's eyes locked with hers. For a long moment, silence stretched again, heavy and sharp. Finally, he looked away, his jaw clenched. Because giving up is easy, he muttered, and I'm too stubborn to die easy. A faint smile touched Kayla's lips, though her eyes were wet. Then you are exactly the reason this place still waits. Before Daniel could reply, the ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The hunters were outside, their claws striking the steel door. The sound was muffled but constant. They had not given up. Daniel cursed under his breath. They'll never stop. Kayla's grip on the crystal tightened. The machines around them hummed louder, as if answering the hunter's threat. She looked around, eyes searching. There must be a way deeper, something hidden. Daniel stood, wincing at the pain in his arm. He moved to one of the machines and brushed away the dust. The symbols glowed faintly under his touch, but nothing happened. Kayla stepped beside him. She pressed the crystal against the same spot. The light spread instantly, lines of blue racing across the wall. A door hissed open, revealing another passage, dark but alive with the sound of faint machinery. Daniel stared, his voice low. Your crystal. It's waking this place. Kayla nodded. Because it remembers me. It remembers my blood. Daniel looked at her sharply. What does that mean? Kayla's lips trembled. It means my people never trusted humans completely. They made sure no one could open this place without us. Daniel's hand tightened on his pipe. His voice was quiet but sharp as a blade. So even in our last refuge, we needed you. Kayla lowered her eyes. Yes, but now you need me to finish what your people started. Before Daniel could answer, the steel door behind them shook again, harder this time. Cracks appeared along its edge. The hunters were close to breaking through. Kayla lifted the crystal. Its glow grew brighter, filling the chamber with blue fire. "We don't have time, we must go deeper." Daniel hesitated for only a moment. Then he nodded. "Fine. But if this is a trap, if you're leading me into their hands—" His voice trailed off, but his eyes said everything. Kayla met his gaze. Her voice was steady even though her heart raced. "If it is a trap, then we both die. But if it is not, then maybe we both live." The steel door screamed as claws tore at it. Red light spilled through the cracks. Daniel stepped into the dark passage, pipe in one hand, lantern in the other. Kayla followed, the crystal lighting their way. Behind them, the hunters finally broke through. The chamber filled with their metallic roars. But Daniel and Kayla were already gone, swallowed by the deeper tunnels. The ancient refuge had awakened, and it had chosen them. The deeper passage closed behind them with a heavy sigh of metal. Kayla and Daniel walked into the darkness, their lights pushing back the shadows. The air was colder here, sharper, like the breath of something ancient. The tunnel was not like the ones above. It was smoother, built with purpose. Strange patterns ran along the walls, lines that glowed faintly as Kayla's crystal passed near them. It was as if the stone itself remembered her touch. Daniel kept his lantern raised, but his eyes stayed on her. Every step, every glow from the crystal, made his suspicion grow stronger. Finally, he broke the silence. "You need to tell me what this is. No more secrets." Kayla held the crystal close to her chest. Her silver eyes shone in the blue light. For a long moment, she did not answer. Then she whispered, "It is not only a key. It is a seed." Daniel frowned. "A seed? That thing doesn't look alive." Kayla shook her head. "Not a living seed. A seed of power. A seed of memory. It holds the heart of something your people built, something even my people feared." Daniel's grip on the pipe tightened. His voice was sharp. "Feared? What did we build?" Kayla stopped walking. She turned to face him, her expression heavy with guilt. "A weapon. One that could end the hunters. One that could end everything." Daniel froze. His breath caught in his chest. For years he had heard whispers in the ruins, legends about a last human weapon hidden deep under the earth. But he had never believed them. Until now. "You're saying my people built a doomsday," he muttered. "And you brought me the key?" Kayla's hands trembled around the crystal. "Not to use it, to protect it. The hunters fear this weapon because they know it could destroy them. That is why they chase me. That is why they will never stop." Daniel stepped closer, his eyes burning. "If it can destroy them, then why not use it?" Kayla shook her head fiercely. "Because it may also destroy you. It does not care who is friend or enemy. It burns everything. My people called it the last fire." The words echoed in the tunnel like a curse. Daniel looked away, his jaw tight. "So humans built a weapon so strong even their allies feared it. That sounds like us." Kayla lowered her head. "Yes. That is why many turned against you. They believed humans would rather burn the stars than lose." Daniel gave a bitter laugh. Maybe they were right. The silence stretched heavy between them. But then, the tunnel opened into a wide chamber. The walls glowed brighter here, alive with veins of blue light. At the far end stood another great door, larger than the last. Its surface was covered in strange human symbols, glowing faintly in answer to Kayla's crystal. Kayla stepped forward slowly, awe in her voice. "It waits. It has been waiting all this time." Daniel's face was dark with doubt. He stared at the door like it was a grave. "And if we open it?" Kayla turned to him. "Then you will see the truth. The choice will not be mine. It will be yours." Daniel blinked. "Mine?" "Yes," Kayla whispered. "Because this is a human weapon. Only a human heart can decide if it should awaken." The words struck Daniel like a hammer. His chest tightened. He had spent years surviving in ruins, fighting scraps of machines with nothing but a pipe. And now this alien girl told him the fate of everything rested on him. He shook his head. "You're wrong. I'm no leader. I'm no soldier. I'm just a man trying to live one more day." Kayla's eyes softened. "And that is why it must be you. Because the ones who seek power cannot be trusted with it. Only someone who has nothing left. Someone who knows the cost of survival can choose." Daniel stared at her. For the first time since they met, he saw no lies in her face. Only truth and fear and hope all tangled together. Before he could answer, the ground trembled. The steel door behind them rattled. The hunters were still coming, their claws echoing through the tunnels. Kayla lifted the crystal. The glow surged brighter, filling the chamber with blue fire. The great door groaned, its locks clicking open after centuries of silence. Daniel's heart pounded. His hands shook. He whispered almost to himself, "If I open this, there's no going back." Kayla stepped beside him. "If you do not, there may be no tomorrow." The door cracked open, cold air rushing out like a breath from the grave. Inside, shadows stirred and the faint hum of something enormous filled the air. Daniel swallowed hard. He felt the weight of a choice pressing down on him. The choice of his people. The choice of survival or destruction. Kayla pressed the crystal into his hand. Her voice was steady. "It belongs to you now." Daniel stared at the glowing stone, its light bleeding into his skin. For a moment he felt as if the earth itself pulsed with his heartbeat. Behind them, the hunters roared, their voices shaking the tunnels. Ahead of them, the hidden chamber waited, alive with ancient power. Daniel clenched his jaw. He stepped forward, and the darkness beyond the door opened its eyes. The great door opened with a groan like the cry of a giant waking from sleep. Dust poured down, and the stale air inside rushed out, cold and heavy with the weight of centuries. Daniel and Kayla stepped inside. Their footsteps echoed on the smooth floor, their light mixing with the faint glow of machines that had not been touched for generations. The chamber was vast. Towers of metal and glass stretched to the ceiling, their cores pulsing faintly as if waiting for a command. Strange screens flickered with ghostly images, maps of stars, symbols of war, human words half faded but still alive. Daniel stopped in the center, his breath caught. This isn't just a shelter, it's a fortress. Kayla's silver eyes shone wide with awe. She touched one of the machines gently and it hummed an answer to her crystal. "No," she whispered. "This is the last refuge, the place your people built when they knew the end was coming." Daniel's hands tightened around the glowing stone. The weight of it burned in his palm. He looked around at the ancient machines, their power trembling just beneath the surface. For the first time he believed the stories. For the first time he understood why the hunters feared. Behind them, the echoes of metal claws grew louder. The hunters were forcing their way through the tunnels. The door would not hold forever. Kayla turned to him, her voice sharp with urgency. "The crystal belongs in the heart of this place. If you put it there, the system will wake." Daniel frowned. "And then what? It burns them? Burns us?" Kayla's face fell. Her voice was heavy. "I don't know. My people never saw it used. They only feared it." Daniel let out a bitter laugh. "So you dragged me down here with nothing but fear and hope?" Kayla stepped closer, her eyes pleading. "I brought you here because you are human. This place will only listen to you. I cannot command it. Only your blood, your will can decide." The sound of claws grew sharper. Sparks burst from the steel door behind them. The hunters were close. Daniel looked at the crystal again. The blue glow pulsed like a heart, steady, waiting. For years he had lived like a ghost, hiding, surviving, fighting scraps of metal with nothing but rage and hunger. Now this alien girl told him the fate of everything rested in his hand. He closed his eyes. He thought of the faces he once knew, the family he had lost, the city turned to ash. He thought of the endless chase, the hopeless nights. And he thought of Kayla, standing before him fragile but brave, trusting him with everything. His eyes opened. The fire returned. "Show me where," he said. Kayla's face softened with relief. She turned and led him to the far end of the chamber. In the center stood a great machine shaped like a heart of steel. Its surface was covered in human symbols, glowing faintly in rhythm with the crystal. "This is it," Kayla whispered. "The core." Daniel stepped forward. His hand shook as he raised the crystal. He hesitated just for a moment. Behind them, the door screamed as the hunters tore it open. Red eyes flooded the chamber. Their voices screeched in victory. "Now!" Kayla cried. Daniel slammed the crystal into the heart of the core. For an instant, silence. Then the world shook. Light exploded from the core, racing through the chamber, into the walls, through the tunnels. The machines awoke one by one, their lights glowing with blinding power. The ground trembled as energy surged like a storm. The hunters froze. Their red eyes flickered. One stepped forward, raising its blade. But the walls of the refuge pulsed, and a wave of blue fire shot out, striking the machine. It screamed, its body melting into ash. More waves followed. The hunters howled as the refuge itself came alive, firing beams of light, tearing the machines apart. The chamber roared with the sound of war reborn. Kayla shielded her eyes, her body trembling with awe. "It lives," she whispered. "It truly lives." Daniel stood firm, the light of the crystal flowing through his hand. For a moment he felt connected to the machines, to the refuge, to the ghosts of his people. He felt their voices, their courage, their fire. The hunters fell one by one, burned by the storm of human power. The chamber shook with victory, but the power did not stop. The light grew brighter, hotter, shaking the ground. Machines groaned under the weight of energy. Kayla's face filled with fear. "Daniel, it is too strong. You must control it." Daniel gritted his teeth, gripping the crystal. Tighter. His voice thundered against the roar of the machines. "I will not let it destroy us." The light answered his will. The storm slowed, bending, shaping itself to his command. The beams cut only where he wished, striking hunters, sparing the walls. The chamber obeyed him. Kayla stared at him in shock. You control it?" Daniel's eyes glowed with the same blue fire. His voice was steady, unbroken. "No. It listens. Because it was made for us. It was made for humans." The last hunter screamed as the light tore it apart. Silence fell, broken only by the hum of the awakened refuge. Daniel pulled the crystal from the core. The glow dimmed, slightly, the storm fading. The machines quieted, their power resting again, waiting. The chamber was safe. For now. Kayla fell to her knees, tears filling her eyes. "You did it. You saved us." Daniel stood tall, breathing hard, the crystal burning in his hand. He looked around the chamber, at the machines, at the symbols glowing on the walls. His voice was low but certain. "No. This is only the beginning." The silence after the battle was heavy. The chamber no longer roared with fire and light. Only the low hum of the awakened refuge remained, like a sleeping giant breathing softly. The air was thick with smoke and the ashes of fallen hunters. Daniel stood in the center, his chest rising and falling, the crystal glowing faintly in his hand. His clothes were torn, his arms bloodied, but his eyes shone with fire. He had faced the storm and had not broken. Kayla knelt nearby, her silver skin glowing weakly. Her eyes were wide, staring at him with something between awe and fear. She had seen warriors before. She had seen leaders. But never had she seen someone like him, someone who fought not for power, not for glory, but because giving up was never an option. Slowly, Kayla rose to her feet. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "Now I see why they feared your kind. Not because of your weapons, but because of you. Daniel looked at her, his jaw tight. Weapons mean nothing without the will to use them. Kayla stepped closer. And you have that will. For a moment, silence stretched between them. The only sound was the faint hum of the machines, but it did not last. A deep vibration shook the ground. The walls trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. From beyond the tunnels came a low metallic roar, louder than all before it. The hunters had not been defeated completely. Something larger, something worse, was coming. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He gripped the crystal tighter. They won't stop, not until we're both dead. Kayla's hands shook. Then we must leave. We cannot fight that. Daniel looked around the chamber. The walls glowed faintly, waiting for his command. He could feel it. The refuge was alive, its strength flowing through him when the crystal was near. He closed his eyes for a second, listening. No, he said firmly. Running won't save us. Running never saves anyone. We stand here. Kayla's lips trembled. But if you use the last fire again, it could burn everything. Daniel turned to her, his face sharp, his voice steady. If humans built this, they built it to protect, not to destroy blindly. They trusted themselves. Now it trusts me. That means it can do more than burn. Before Kayla could answer, the tunnel behind them cracked open. A massive hunter emerged, larger than any they had faced before. Its body was covered in black armor, its arms shaped like blades of fire. Its red eyes glowed brighter than the sun. It roared, the sound shaking the chamber like thunder. Kayla gasped, stepping back. The hunter prime. Daniel stepped forward. The glow of the crystal spread across his arm, flowing into his chest. The machines around the chamber awakened again, their lights pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. The hunter prime charged. Its claws tore through the ground, sparks flying. Daniel raised the crystal high. Now, he whispered, you fight with me. The chamber answered. Beams of blue light shot from the walls, striking the hunter prime. It staggered, but did not fall. It roared again, slashing through the beams, its armor burning but not breaking. Daniel clenched his jaw. His voice thundered. Stronger! The light surged brighter, more focused. The beams pierced the hunter's armor, burning deep. The machine screamed, staggering back. But the effort tore at Daniel's body. His knees bent. Blood dripped from his arm. The crystal burned hot, almost unbearable. Kayla ran to him, her hands glowing faintly as she pressed against his side. You cannot hold it alone. Daniel's teeth clenched. Then help me. Kayla placed her hand on his, wrapping her fingers around the crystal. For a moment, their lights joined, blue and silver, human and alien. The refuge roared in answer. The beams grew sharper, cutting deep into the hunter prime. It howled, its red eyes dimming. Finally, with one last scream, its body collapsed into ash and fire. Silence fell again. Daniel dropped to one knee, gasping for breath. Kayla held him, her eyes wide with relief and tears. You did it, she whispered. You saved us. Daniel shook his head weakly. He looked around at the glowing chamber, at the machines that waited. His voice was low, but steady. No, we saved us together. Kayla's eyes softened. For the first time in years, she felt hope, true hope. The refuge hummed gently, its power calm once more. The machines did not rage or burn. They waited. They listened. Daniel stood slowly, still weak, but unbroken. He looked at the crystal in his hand. Its glow had dimmed, but it still pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. He turned to Kayla. His voice was steady, filled with a quiet fire. This isn't just a weapon, it's a promise. My people built it not only to fight, but to remind us who we are. We don't bow. We don't break. We always stand. Kayla nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. Humans, you are more dangerous and more precious than I ever believed. Daniel looked toward the dark tunnel beyond the chamber, where silence now stretched. He knew more hunters would come. He knew the war was not over, but for the first time he did not feel like a survivor hiding in ruins. He felt like the voice of his people, the last spark of fire that refused to die. He tightened his grip on the crystal. His voice was quiet, but filled the chamber like thunder. This is not the end. This is the beginning. The machines of the refuge pulsed in answer, their glow spreading across the walls like stars awakening in the dark. And for the first time in a long, broken world, hope lived again.